While families whose homes are broken into this Christmas Day, they're going to face double heartbreak because new figures found the number of culprits being caught by police has fallen. The data uncovered by a Freedom of Information Act survey has revealed that those who were burgled on Christmas Day last year, police only managed to charge a suspect 1 in 10 cases of the almost 400 logged. I mean, if you have a look at the thefts that seem to be going on, not only of homes but also of shops and elsewhere, burglaries going unsolved. How on earth do we get more convictions? How on earth do we stop this crime epidemic? Well, I'm joined now by Peter Kirkham, former TCI Met Office detective, joins me now. Peter, very good afternoon to you.
Good afternoon.
Thank you very much indeed for joining us this afternoon. This is just another stat indicating that our criminal justice system, our prevention system in terms of burglaries or thefts from retail units and indeed from people's homes appears to be broken. What's the answer to this? Is the government giving the right sense of resource and urgency?
There is no single answer. There are a number of answers, and most of those, like most things in life, cost money. Policing has been ravaged since 2010, and although Boris Johnson, with great flourish, announced that he was going to bring the numbers of cops back by recruiting 20,000 over a short period of time, he didn't say anything about the police civil staff, support staff that were cut equally and haven't been restored, or the PCSOs that were important in maintaining an actual visible presence and point of contact in town centres and high streets especially, and on estates. And they were cut, again, to the bone, and they haven't been replaced either. So we are still an awful lot of police resource down on where we were in 2010. And of course, the calls on that resource have increased since then, just with population.
Now,
so we're probably looking at a real problem.
Sure, there are some who would say that the whole idea to bring in PCSOs was the beginning of the end, in the sense that if you degrade, if you like, the role of the police officer, yes, of course, you have visibility, but we've relied more on CCTV, which seems to catch no one, prevent nothing. And then, of course, you had PCSOs on the street, but then you have so many stories where they're just plastic police. Do we need to get back to a system where we have real police on our streets, in person, as well as all the technology?
In short, yes. I've yet to see any technology that actually does what a police officer does, which is actually run towards danger and intervene in difficult situations and make arrests. No computer, no camera, no artificial intelligence. None of that is going to replace what the police officer does. Hopefully, it will free up time for that police officer so they're on the street more than they're in the office doing paperwork. It's not paper now, it's all on computer systems. But that's not really the case. And it just tends to add the technology. You know, CCTV comes in, CCTV or video recording of interviews comes in, where you've got all the storage of those in an evidentially sound way. You've got all the documentation of those. So there's massive time and expense involved in virtually all new uses of technology, and they still don't deliver you what a police officer delivers you. The PCSOs, I wouldn't say, is the thin end of the wedge. They're not police officers, so there's a time and a place for them, and used properly, they're great. But they need to be used alongside police officers in community teams.
Do you think there's also a problem, though, with perception? As Chris has been in touch and says, please speak to your police guests and say that police solve virtually no community crime. What they're doing, what are they doing apart from policing Twitter? That we've seen, for example, quite a lot of action relating to, for example, the riots that happened a few months ago, and very swift action there. But when it comes to other kinds of lower level disorder, police and policing seem to go after the easy stuff that they can go after. The difficult stuff they seem not to be focusing on.
They focus on the difficult stuff all the time, and your caller, I didn't catch his name, was it Chris? Unfortunately, he's fallen for the nonsense spouted by the right-wing narrative about police spending all their time policing Twitter. They don't. They spend very, very little time on that. There's an argument they should be even less, or they could do it differently, and there's different ways of doing things, and there's things that can be improved, of course. But it's a tiny proportion of their time. The vast majority of their time is spent dealing with serious crime. To the exclusion of a lot of middling crime, if you want to describe it that way,
so you
that simply doesn't have a resource at all.
OK, and that's part of the problem, because I guess the crime that we see day to day are people skipping fares, people nicking stuff out of the corner shop, perhaps drugs and drug running, various other things that we see on a day-to-day level. And I'm assuming that the policing resource just hasn't been enough in order to make sure that that is taken. Is the only way to deal with it is some kind of zero-tolerance policing?
Yeah, it's pointless having zero tolerance if you've got zero cop time available to deal with it. You can make as many statements, laws and policies as you like, but unless you've got someone to implement them, and in terms of policing, I'm afraid there's only one answer to that, and that is the uniformed constable, delivering the vast majority of policing services, assisted by others that move into specialist roles like detective and murder squad or whatever. So you need uniformed bobbies on the street. They deliver a myriad things, much of which isn't and can't be counted, but which is absolutely essential as the bedrock on which the rest of policing stands. If you take away the foundations of a building, then the rest of it teeters and eventually falls over. And if you take away the foundation of policing, which is uniformed cops on the street, the rest of it teeters, and we're there at the moment, and it will fall over. And just finally,
to you, Yvette Cooper says she's bringing back the foundations and hiring. Is she making the right choices?
Most of what she's done that I'm aware of in detail, yes, it all sounds like it's going the right way, but there's such a long way to go. And policing's not one of those things that you make a change and you see the difference this afternoon. There's a lead time of 3 to 5 years for most policing changes. So it'll be a long time before we see improvement, but I think she's heading in the right direction from what she's saying.
Well, then there we go. At least somebody is. There we are. Peter Kirkham, former DCI Met officer. Thank you very much indeed for joining us here on Talk.